Hello, we are here to answer your questions, comments, and concerns. My foot is slightly less broken than it was, and I am turning into Darth Vader. That's just where my life is at right now. What do we have?
He's got sleep apnea, in case you wanted to know. He's not actually becoming evil and murdering children. He needs a breathing device to breathe. To sleep. So, anyway, I promise our children are safe.
On Star Wars related stuff, the first lightsaber was built this week, which is insane.
Yeah.
I'm not
Google
even kidding.
It, man.
Look it up. It's crazy. Like, we're not talking like a super hot piece of metal that like cuts through stuff. We're talking like a blade of plasma that comes out of a hilt that you can hold without needing to wear a hazmat suit, and it cuts through stuff. It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah.
But,
anyway,
right.
sorry.
Geek rant over. Let's get to you guys.
All right, for our reviews, Fairy Stain Girl, that was intense, but they managed to make it to the next round. Poor Kurai. He's going to have to fight Mina. Well, best of luck to both of them. I wonder which one of them will win in their battle.
I want to know which one she was actually rooting for.
Yeah. All right. So, Bijan Lightis, great chapter mate, most likely has bad spelling in the next part. Kurai's next match is going to be nuts. I also have a feeling that Iida is just going to shout at Kurai about Kurai and Mina going out in front of everyone. Blade Hero Light signing out.
I mean, would Iida shout at would he shout at him, like, in front of everybody, do you think?
Oh, yeah, totally. That's Iida. He calls everybody out in front of everybody. That's just
but this is supposed to be like his best friend, you know?
It's Iida.
Yeah, it is. You gotta.
He has no tact.
No, he really doesn't.
He's a dork.
No, yeah, you guys are right.
Okay, Silver 4700. This was a big one. So
yes, I love long ones.
These two chapters were interesting, to say the least. I will say that the cavalry battle, even in the show, was, I'm gonna say, confusing to an extent in terms of how they each got into a specific formation, but it was also just not interesting to me either than the 10 million point headband twist. I do like how you changed it up and it was interesting. However, I do have a question. So Dark Shadow gets stronger in the dark. I get that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were insinuating that Dark Shadow was in its stronger state. So was it that when Tokoyami is in dark? Sorry. So was it that when Tokoyami is in the dark, his quirk is stronger, or is it that the physical manifestation of his quirk needs to be in the dark?
Is that a good pausing point?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did research on this coming up on this fight. So for starters, Dark Shadow wasn't in like the huge red-eyed, like crazy state where he's at his strongest. He was kind of like a step down below that, but still more aggressive than he is when he's got like the yellow eyes and he's just kind of like this all the time and he's just hanging out. So he's not so it wasn't quite as crazy as maybe what you're thinking. And what I've concluded from going over the episodes and doing a little bit of reading from some of the manga sources is that Tokoyami is the one that needs to be in the dark. It's not necessarily his shadow, and I base that one of the reasons one of the ways that I heavily base this is actually from when Bakugo is fighting Tokoyami, and Tokoyami is trying to keep Dark Shadow going. And he remarks to himself that he is running out of darkness, not necessarily his quirk, and that's also why he wears a dark cape and keeps most of his body covered whenever he's out in daylight doing hero work. Is because when his body is in darkness, it allows his quirk to last longer and make him more powerful. So I believe Dark Shadow still has a weakness to bright lights and stuff, but sunlight doesn't affect him as much if Tokoyami has managed to keep himself in darkness, which is where Shoji comes into effect, because we saw him with Mineta and Asui on his back in the original. So, I mean, the guy's huge. He would have, I imagine it wouldn't be a stretch for him to have room for two normal-sized people to run around while he's running around with them on his back. And if he's keeping Tokoyami covered and like submerged mostly in darkness, even if there's a little bit of light coming in, that's what leads me to believe that Dark Shadow would have been fair amount stronger than he normally would be, but not quite to the berserker state that we've seen.
So to clarify, you're saying that the dark does make his quirk stronger.
Yes.
But he doesn't necessarily need the dark for his physical manifestation.
Tokoyami being in the dark makes his quirk stronger. Not necessarily like, let's say that Dark Shadow was in a dark cave, but Tokoyami was standing outside in the light. His shadow would still be under his control because he's being exposed to sunlight. Turn it around though. If Tokoyami is in the dark cave and Dark Shadow's out in the sunlight, Tokoyami is still gonna have a hard time controlling Dark Shadow because the darkness is coming from him, not
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
I hope that clarifies that.
So I don't know. I just remember a segment where Bakugo's blast around Dark Shadow make it weaker. So I don't know. I need to fact check maybe. Sorry. So that was
again. Bakugo's blasts were also being like he was also basically stun grenading Tokoyami at the same time. So I don't know that that's.
Well.
I mean, each time Bakugo has gone up against Tokoyami, he's creating these big flashes of light that affect both Dark Shadow and Tokoyami.
Mm-hmm.
Like, based on what I already said, I think that Tokoyami's the one that has to be in the darkness for it to make the quirk more powerful, not the other way around.
Clearly, the brightness does kind of weaken his quirk.
Well, yeah, you can't exactly... It's like, unless you have like a flashlight, a concentrated flashlight, it's kind of hard to make light go in one direction. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're setting off an explosion in a dark place, the light's going to go everywhere. There's no control over that. It'll affect all the targets in the vicinity.
I'm trying to understand how that relates to this, but okay.
I'm hoping I'm clarifying this for you.
But now, the latest chapter, I liked the fights, especially the fight between Ashido and Hikari. It was interesting to see how it would play out. And a part of me really wanted to see her cover the floor in nothing but acid to present mobility. But I guess that's just my opinion. Otherwise, really solid fight.
I don't know if she, at this point, would be strong enough to coat that entire area in acid. I mean, I don't know that it really made a difference to her mobility because she just secretes whatever she needs out of her feet. And she gets around fine with that. But
skating.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I could see that maybe like restricting Kurai's movements. But I don't think she's strong enough to like let out that much acid all at once. Not yet, anyways.
Okay. All right. Also, I really like Akurui. He reminds me so much of this one character, Alfredo Layton from the Professor Layton series, who is kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde / Sherlock. That's cool, detective. I don't know. He does deductions at percentage probabilities. Also, Akurui, don't worry, Hikari, you already have everything you need to win. Hikari, the power to believe in myself? Akurui, no freaking laser beams, shoot her. Hikari, oh right.
I like the SAO abridged reference. I love it.
Also, two last things. Don't know if you saw it or not, but a bunch of people on YouTube collaborated to make an Ultimate Yusei Run cover, and it's freaking incredible. Also, there's a show called Death Battle, kind of Ultimate, who would win a fight show, and they put Zuko versus Todoroki.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I've been watching Death Battle for years, man. I think the first time I saw it was Goku versus Superman.
That was the popular one.
That was like the really that one was so popular they had to go back and do it a second time.
Yeah, the follow-up.
And which, by the way, Goku loses every time. He's too dumb. But yes, and I saw that video, and I believe they actually got Dante Bosco to voice Zuko for that fight, which is the original voice actor for Zuko from the TV series, if you didn't know. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, what was the other thing there? Death Battle and what? Oh, the Yusei. I've heard a lot of Yusei Run covers, and I like most of them.
Yeah, you'll have to tell us specifically what.
Yeah, which one in particular you're talking about? Because I've listened to like 20 different ones.
That's awesome.
So odds are that I've heard it, but
he listens to soundtracks.
I need mood music, man.
You need help.
That's been established for a long time, but.
Alright, cool. It's an interesting battle. I don't know. Just wanted to tell you those.
Okay.
Throws on a blue trench coat and a mask. I'm going back to writing my SAO story. Really missed that I want to get back to writing. Reading your stuff honestly inspires me a lot of the time. And so in all honesty, thanks for that, man. Thanks.
You're welcome, man. Dude, I'm happy to help in whatever way I can.
Oh, last thing, I swear. I hope that both you and Becca have a great day. Off to Aincrad, pulls out teleport crystal. Teleport, whatever it is.
Dude, I'm so excited for SAO Progressive to start happening in 2022. It's gonna be great. It's what I've wanted since the stupid series started.
Nice. Well, good luck with your writing.
Yeah.
I hope you have a real solid spell.
Let me know when you start throwing some stuff out there, and I'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and that's it for Silver 4700.
All right, man, I love long reviews. They're so much fun.
Yes, thank you. All right, Fairy Sing Girl. Oh well, that was awesome. I liked the fight between Kurai and Mina. Oh dear. And now Iida apparently saw them showing affection to each other after Kurai won and ended up kissing Mina on the cheek when she was cheekily asking him for a kiss.
I see what you did there.
Cheekily. Yeah. Deku Rose. Cool story. Deku Rose.
Deku Rose. Is that someone new?
Yeah, this is new. I'm trying to figure out if your handle is referencing what I think it's referencing.
What?
Deku Rose.
I'm confused.
I mean, I guess I could ship it. Not
Rose.
really.
Wait, Rose.
I don't know.
Wait, what Rose? Wait, you talking about Ruby Rose from Ruby? Maybe. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. They have very similar personalities. I don't know.
That's a good point.
You'll have to tell us if that's actually
let me know if that's what you're
referencing.
Yeah.
Because it's so funny because he's actually mentioned these characters teaming up in the past.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
I mean, they're both giant. They're both giant adorkable nerds. So I guess I see it.
They could totally geek out together at some point. I can see it.
Yep.
All right, Silly Kita. I will give credit where it's due. That certainly was a close fight. However, the fact that you warned us that it would be a close fight kind of led me to expect that Kurai would be the victor once Mina laid that last punch. It just doesn't quite seem to be in keeping with your style to give a character the exact same win that they had in the source material when fighting a different character. So, her punching Kurai like she did Aoyama kind of tipped me off. Again, that's not to say that it wasn't an entertaining fight. It really was. Deku versus Shoji was a fresh delight, as that's not a battle I've seen elsewhere, and it was well in keeping with the type of thinking and maneuvering that one could expect from an MHA fight, from My Hero Academia fight. Okay. I say very well done.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate
now, Iida walking in on the two of them being cute. Tag nabbit. I haven't heard that one in a while. My grandpa used to say that all the time. Hopefully this doesn't end up...
I think my people used to say that around when he would start to say something else and then he would change it to that.
Nabbit. That's my grandpa used to say that all the time. Hopefully this doesn't end up being too big a thing. But something tells me that Iida won't be inclined to just let things go.
I mean, they're in high school. Nothing is a small deal.
Especially if it's his best friend keeping a big secret from him. Maybe he just wants a chance to congratulate his buddy and is upset that he wasn't upfront about it. One can only hope.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that, man.
You'll see. Excellent chapter containing the most intriguing fight so far. Not to say that Kurai versus Nomu wasn't interesting, but that Deku versus Shoji match really tickled my fancy for some reason. Me too. I thought that was really interesting. It was a weird pair up, but it just worked.
That probably is that's probably one of the ones where I had to think about it a little harder than the other ones, but
I look forward to the next chapter. So be well until then.
All right. I'm glad you're looking forward to the next chapter because it's about to come up here in a few minutes. Do we have any more?
And that's it for today.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you guys for your reviews. I'm going to switch over to the audio chapter, and we will be back to take you behind the scenes here in a little bit. The fight rages. Kurai froze. Iida glared. Mina looked between the two of them nervously, though she did not move from her boyfriend's side. I see that you ignored my advice, Kurai, the bespectacled student said sternly. I told you that becoming involved in a romantic entanglement within our class could interfere with the dynamics of our class. Maybe even put lives at risk. This is the height of irresponsibility. I don't think this is the height of irresponsibility, Kurai said with a slow shake of his head. Then what would you say it is? Iida demanded indignantly. I don't know how tall his Baka go. Kurai, I'm trying to be serious here. So am I, Kurai deadpanned. I'm failing, and I'm sorry for that. It's just that I seem to remember telling someone that it was none of his business, and here he is, sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong. Guys, can we not do this right now? Mina requested nervously as the two boys glared daggers at each other. Kurai and I both have injuries we need to have treated, so we should really be on our way to the nurse's office. While I am tempted to argue against you due to the situation probably being your fault, I can agree that you need to have your wounds looked at. Iida grumbled as he adjusted his glasses. I was coming down here to congratulate my friend on his win, but I suppose it'll have to wait until after I've given him a reminder of what's important. Now Kurai was indignant. Excuse you? He demanded. First of all, don't go pointing fingers at my girlfriend when you don't know the whole story. Second, you don't get to determine which parts of my life are more important than others. I do when they concern the safety of our classmates, who I am bound by my position to protect. His friend hurled back. Guys, please, Mina begged. This isn't the time or the place for this. If you have some kind of problem with each other, settle it in the next fight, okay? Kurai and Iida glared at each other for a few more minutes before exchanging curt nods. We'll settle it in the ring, Kurai confirmed. Very well, the taller boy said as he turned around and began to walk away. Kurai let out a long, heavy sigh once he was out of sight. And that is why I didn't want him to know, he mumbled. I'm so sorry, Kurai, Mina said as they resumed walking toward Recovery Girl's office. I didn't mean to cause you trouble like this. No, I should have been more upfront with him, the boy replied dully. At least then he would have found out from me instead of walking in on us like that. I hope once we can have a proper conversation without being all riled up, he'll come around to the idea. Or at least he won't be lecturing me about it at every opportunity. Regardless, nothing that happened was your fault. I still feel bad about it, though, she remarked. If there's anything I can do to make it up to you, let me know. The two saw Recovery Girl, then returned to their seats, a little surprised when they didn't see Iida, Uraraka, or Midoriya were sitting where they had been. Do you think Iida is interrogating them? Mina asked when they took their places, waving in response to the greetings their classmates were giving them. Apparently during their time spent with the nurse, Tokugami had already defeated Yayorozu, and the next round was set to begin. Ochako went to go get ready for her match with Bakugo, Asui informed them from where she sat behind them. Iida and Midoriya went to go check on her. Kurai nodded in understanding as he realized Bakugo was also missing from their number. That fight is going to be hard to watch. You don't think she can win, do you? Mina asked him worriedly, to which he slowly shook his head. Her quirk isn't suited for fighting, at least it is not like Bakugo's is, he replied grimly. The other issue is her attitude. What do you mean by that? Asked Jiro, who was sitting next to Asui. You saw her getting really pumped for the festival the other day. She's just as determined to win as the rest of you. I'm not talking about her drive in general, he replied quickly. Don't get me wrong, I think she'll be a great hero someday, but she wants to be a rescue hero, not a fighter, you know? Bakugo lives for this kind of thing. That's the difference I was trying to highlight. He makes a good point, Shoji said as he folded his arms. But you don't think Bakugo would hold back just a little bit for her? Not likely, Asui said bluntly. From what we know about him, Bakugo never holds back. It doesn't matter what gets in his way. He does everything he can to destroy them. The others all grimaced as she spoke, but none of them could refute her words. Still, she hangs out with Midoriya quite a bit, and he's good at coming up with some more unorthodox strategies, Kurai said, trying to lift the spirits of the others. Who knows, maybe he's got a plan in mind that'll let her stand on equal footing with Bakugo, or at least give her a shot at winning. The next battle proved to be harder to watch than Kurai would have imagined, made only more so by the fact that Uraraka nearly defeated Bakugo. The blonde student was relentless, unleashing blast after blast at his competitor, with her tenacity matching his own in nearly every way. Time and time again, she hurled herself into the explosions, heedless of the damage it had to be doing to her body, all while slowly building up to her own counterattack. With the rubble generated by Bakugo destroying the stadium piece by piece, she gathered a meteor shower's worth of rocks high above the stadium before releasing them, gravity hurling them at a surprised Bakugo, who looked to be nearly taken aback for a moment. However, he quickly recovered and destroyed her attack with an explosion bigger than any his classmates had ever seen him produce. With that, Uraraka hit her limit and was knocked out by her own exhaustion, leaving Bakugo standing victorious. The whole match, Iida and Kurai spoke not one word to each other, with Midoriya and Ashido also unable to think of a way to break the tension. When she was taken to the nurse and Cementos worked to repair the stadium, following the damage the last match had caused, Kirishima and Tetsu had their rematch in the form of an arm wrestling contest. At first, it seemed to be just as even of a match as their first combat set had been, but eventually Kirishima's hardening quirk was able to outlast Tetsu's steely build, and with a roar of victory, Kurai's classmate claimed victory. The two of them even seemed to reach a level of respect for each other after the fact, with Kirishima helping his former opponent to his feet and leaving with a hearty handshake. Well, there goes the last person not in Class 1A, Kurai remarked as he leaned back in his seat. I guess their experience with the USJ gave us a bigger edge than I would have thought. Wow, puffing up on your hot air, are we? Everyone in Class A looked up to their left to see a blonde boy with condescending blue eyes looking down on them from above a wall that separated them from the other class's seating areas. If you're really so much better than us, why'd it have to go to a tiebreaker, huh? What's with that guy? Kurai thought before a large hand appeared behind his head and chopped him in a nerve point, rendering him unconscious. Before anyone could ask what had just happened, a girl with orange hair popped up with an apologetic smile and said, "Sorry about that. He doesn't know when to stop sometimes." With that, she disappeared behind the wall. "Who were they?" Kurai asked, their appearances having struck a chord in his recent memory. "They're from Class B," Kaminari answered for him, looking a little disgruntled. Apparently Bakugo did something to make him mad, because he's been out to get us the whole festival. "Ah, great," Kurai muttered, as if we don't have enough competition already, having to go up against each other. The next match to be settled was Kirishima against Midoriya. It took a little longer to set up, with the stadium having been so badly damaged, and with Kirishima needing a little time to recover from consecutive matches. But before too much time had passed, Midoriya found himself standing a few dozen yards away from his next opponent. "Yo, Midoriya," Kirishima said with a friendly grin. "Think Bakugo might kill me if I beat you before he gets the chance?" Maybe," Izuku laughed nervously, "but I wouldn't count me out just yet." "Never, man," his opponent chuckled. "I know you're strong and you've gotten wicked fast since the USJ incident, but I'm betting your punches are gonna shred your skin once they hit my quirk." As he spoke, he flexed his hardened arms to rock-like consistency that his powers allowed. Crap, he's right, Midoriya thought as he took up a fighting stance that Kurai had shown him. Maybe if I could send him flying with a shot at 100%? No, that's too reckless. The kind of thing Mr. Aizawa wanted me not to do. "Begin!" President Mike bellowed. With a raw-throated yell, Kirishima charged at Midoriya, fists ready to strike. "Let's do this, man to man!" he called out before he aimed a punch at his classmate's stomach. In response, Midoriya leaped over him with full cowling, landing behind his attacker and swinging his legs to sweep Kirishima's out from under him. It was a dance move that Mina had integrated into her fighting style, and Izuku had taken careful note of how she did it, even going so far as to get her to give him a few pointers. Now his training had paid off yet again. Pressing his attack, he aimed to kick at Kirishima. The Kirishima rolled out of the way to avoid, throwing him off balance for a second as he tried to regain his footing. The redhead disengaged his quirk to grant him more fluid movements as he made his escape, but immediately went back to his rocky state once he was balanced again. All around them, the crowd cheered, with President Mike providing his loud commentary to add to the hype. "Nice moves, Midoriya," Kirishima laughed. "How long can you keep it up, though?" "Long enough to beat you," the freckled boy grinned back, charging into battle with lightning tickling his limbs. "That's it," he thought as he and Kirishima began to exchange blows. "All quirks have a limit. Mine is determined by how strong my body is, but Kirishima's is different. Is it a time limit? Is it based on his stamina, or something else entirely?" Whatever the case was, he couldn't hope to outmuscle his classmate. This would have to be an endurance match if he was going to have a chance at winning without breaking his bones. Up above, Kurai, Uraraka, who had come from the nurse's office, and Iida were on the edge of their seats, each of them hoping for the best for their friend. Mina, on the other hand, while becoming friends with Midoriya, still wanted her friend from middle school to do well, so she was cheering him on in spite of her boyfriend's choice for Victor. "Who do you think will win?" Iida asked of no one in particular. Without thinking, Kurai answered the question. "Kirishima has an advantage with close combat, since every time that Midoriya hits him, he gets the skin on his hands torn up, or at least bruised," he muttered aloud. "But Midoriya has shown extreme resilience to pain on a few different occasions, so that might not even matter. I think it's going to boil down to whoever has more gas in the tank." "Deku has this," Uraraka chimed in. "He's the most determined guy I've ever met. He won't let something like a little scrape or being tired stop him." "I agree. His tenacity is something to behold." Iida nodded to the both of them, though he did not look directly at Kurai. "Aw, come on, give Kirishima a little more credit than that," Mina pouted. "He took on some of those wackos from the League of Villains alongside Bakugo, and then when he was still ready to go." "That may be, but I think he's just about hit his limit," Kurai said as he pointed down to the two combatants. "Ah!" Kirishima grunted as one of Izuku's bruised fists slammed into his arm, causing a large red mark to appear on his softened skin that was already turning purple. "Damn it!" he growled as he backed off from his opponent. "You gonna surrender?" Midoriya offered. "I don't want to keep this up if it's gonna hurt you too badly." "No way," Kirishima said vehemently. "Real men don't give up just because they get a little bruise. I'm gonna be a hero, and that means giving it my all until I drop, not before." "All right then," Midoriya nodded, the energy of his quirk flaring brightly around him. "Let's do this then." Kirishima grunted in acknowledgement, then started forward again, putting everything he had left into his right arm, the uninjured one. "You're on, Midoriya!" he cried as he swung his fist at his classmate. Too late to dodge, Midoriya acted on reflex, shooting more power into his right hand as he countered, slamming Kirishima's fist with his own, even as he cried out in agony while his bones cracked. It wasn't 100% of One For All's power, perhaps a third or so, but it was still enough to send Kirishima flying off the arena and against the wall next to the exit, knocking him out immediately while the wind howled from the force of Izuku's strike. Gritting his teeth, Midoriya ignored the pain, the cheering crowds, and Midnight's announcement that he would be proceeding to the semi-final round, only seeing Kirishima's unconscious body hitting the ground as he stumbled toward him, his hand bleeding, throbbing, and discolored. "Kirishima," he grunted out. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He was surprised when he heard his classmate letting out a weak chuckle from where he lay. You got me pretty good there, Midoriya. Kirishima? Renewing his efforts to reach his injured classmate, he found himself kneeling beside the battered student who had a grin plastered on his face despite the bruises covering his arms. I just managed to harden my back when I hit the wall, so I should be okay after I see Recovery Girl again, Kirishima explained. Congrats on your win, buddy. You totally earned it. Thanks. Midoriya groaned as he sat down, cradling his injured hand while they waited for the paramedics to take them away. Oh, man. Mina groaned as she leaned back in her seat. I totally thought Kirishima had him there. And it was closer than I would have predicted, Kurai admitted as he pulled out his phone. I should ask Akadori to send his predictions to us, as well as any weaknesses that he notices for me to exploit. You can't do that! Iida cried as he shot to his feet and began waving his arms wildly, though he seemed less hostile now than when he had confronted Kurai and Mina. That's cheating! Where in the rules does it say I'm not allowed to ask for help from formulating a strategy? Kurai said as he texted his brother without looking up. If I recall, you had no issue with Uraraka getting help from Midoriya. That's totally different, Iida protested. Your brother has an IQ of over 300 right now. He could probably predict the play-by-play that will be an hour before it happens. Hey, good heroes surround themselves with people that lend to their own strengths, Kurai said as he put his phone in his pocket and looked up at Iida with a slight frown. How many sidekicks does Ingenium have? Iida paused and sat back down. Alright, fair point. I suppose it is a hero's duty to collect as much information as he can before entering a dangerous situation. Besides, I'll share his intel with anyone that wants to see it, Kurai offered, turning to conclude the rest of his classmates. I'll take you up on that, Asui said as she raised a hand. My opponent is Todoroki, so I'll need all the help I can get. The half-and-half boy was nowhere to be seen, though his classmates assumed he was probably in one of the prep rooms getting ready for his fight with the frog girl. Of course the extras need help to get further along than those of us with actual powers, Bakugo sneered as he walked into their midst and claimed his seat. Says the one that almost got beat by one of our least combat-ready classmates, Kaminari snickered, triggering Bakugo's volatile temper. The hell did you say? He screamed. I wasn't almost beat! I was just getting started! Even so, to level your powers at a frail girl like that was pretty messed up, Sero commented, not seeing Uraraka's face falling at his words. You idiot, Bakugo grumbled, though less fiercely than they all expected. I definitely wouldn't call her frail. Everyone looked over at him in surprise as he glared down at the arena without another word. Did he just hand out a compliment? Kurai thought, utterly shocked at his classmate's declaration. He was snapped out of it when his phone buzzed with a text from his brother. Scanning the message quickly, he winced and handed it over to Asui, whose face remained passive while she read her chances of victory. When she handed the phone back, she shrugged and said, That's about what I expected. Still, gotta try my best, right? You got this, Sue, Uraraka said encouragingly. Plus Ultra! Tsuyu Asui most certainly did not have it. Todoroki got her much the same way that he defeated Sero, though with notably less violence and grandeur. Since her biology was so similar to a frog, she did not hold up well against this ice barrage, the cold putting her to sleep in less than a minute, thereby disqualifying her from competing anymore. Like in his previous match, Todoroki took the time to free his opponent from the ice, and this time we went so far as to warm her back to good health before walking off the stage. Asui looked disappointed in her performance, but it was really just a draw of horrible luck. There was no possible way she could have withstood Todoroki's freezing attacks. Her body simply couldn't handle it. As she was taken off the field on a stretcher, Kurai turned to Midoriya and muttered, So it's you against Todoroki in the semifinals. Good luck with that one. I'm gonna need it. His friend laughed nervously. Do you mind asking your brother to drop some stats for me? I've got my own notes on Todoroki, but I wouldn't mind a little extra help. Yeah, sure thing. Kurai nodded as he pulled out his phone. Don't take too long about it, Iida said as he walked away from his seat. Over his shoulder, he added, Our match is next. We'll settle things there. Looking forward to it, Kurai replied without looking up. Once Iida was gone, Kirishima, having rejoined them along with Midoriya, both of them having their injured arms wrapped in bandages, asked, What's up with you guys? I thought you guys were tight. We are, but we're currently having a difference of opinion on something of a delicate matter, Kurai replied as he finished sending his text. Is it about you and Ashido? Jiro asked calmly, nearly giving Kurai a heart attack. Seriously? He demanded as he shot to his feet and glared at her. Why'd you blurt it out like that? Dude, chill, Kaminari laughed. I think everyone but Iida knew. You guys aren't exactly subtle. What? Everyone? He gaped as he looked around at his classmates. Seriously? Seriously, Tokoyami said flatly. No one said anything because we all figured it didn't really matter to us, nor that it was any of our business. I guess Iida didn't get the memo. Mina giggled. Guess the cat's out of the bag. Mon cher, you cannot deny the sparkles of Aoyama, you seem like a decent enough, if strange, individual. Kurai interrupted him swiftly. But for the love of all things good, keep your commentary about my personal life to yourself. Ah, how gauche of me, the purple-eyed man said dramatically. My sincerest apologies, mon frere. Dude, are you even French? Sero asked him. As his classmates began to talk amongst themselves, Kurai's phone buzzed again, signaling a text from his brother. Pulling it out, he was surprised to see a simple message. It read, "Put your friend on. As for Iida, ditch the gauntlets." Midoriya? Kurai said as he prodded his friend's shoulder before handing him the phone. My brother says to call him with this. I've got a match to get ready for. Yeah, his friend nodded as he accepted the device. Good luck, Hikari. Yeah, do your best, Uraraka grinned at him. I'll be cheering for you and Iida both. Hey, Saiyaman! Bakugo's voice stopped Kurai just before he left. Turning around, he saw the red eyes of his classmate glaring up at him as he said, You better not lose to glasses down there. I want to kill you myself. Standing up and pointing accusingly at him, Bakugo continued shouting, You, Deku, and that icy-eyed bastard have been ignoring me this whole time, and I won't put up with it anymore. You hear me? I'm gonna destroy you and prove that I'm the #1 student here! Yeah, good luck with that, Blast Him Explode, Kurai said with a dismissive wave of his hand as he walked away, Mina following him with a little laugh. You've got to make it past Tokigami first. What the fuck? Calm down, dude! From there on, the sounds of Kirishima trying to restrain Bakugo stayed behind them. Once they reached the prep room, Kurai set about removing his gauntlets, as Akudori had suggested. Seeing this, Mina's eyes widened as she exclaimed, Wait, are you sure about this, Kurai? You could... Akudori suggested that I should, he answered calmly. It's risky, I know, but Iida's not someone I should take on without needing to prepare for the worst. He's cunning, more so than people give him credit for. I'm sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve that even I don't know about. And what about your own trick? She asked worriedly. You sure you'll have a good enough handle on it not to have a repeat of last time? I am 92% certain that I can, he replied with a straightened smile. I wish I could be totally certain, but then hardly anything in life is. She gripped his hand as he freed it from the armor and said, Please make it off that field safely, okay? I will, he said as he pulled her into a hug, still feeling a little awkward in doing so. I promise I'll be careful. Time to face the music once again, Kurai thought as he took to the field amid the thunderous applause, the concussive volume of present mic, and onto the line of his sight of his best friend, now rival for this battle. Good luck, he called to Iida. Same to you, he replied neutrally. Adding a crooked grin to his face, Kurai allowed his power to begin flooding his limbs as he said, Your concern about my relationship is that it'll prove to be a distraction from our pursuit of becoming heroes, yeah? Correct, Iida said as he took a running position. What is your counterpoint? This match, Kurai answered confidently. If my choices are distracting me from becoming a hero so much, I imagine you'll be able to beat me. However, if it doesn't factor into my ability to perform as a hero should, then I'd say that you're wrong. So am I to assume that if I win, you will end your relationship with Ashido? Iida asked after President Mike shouted at them to get started. I'll at least put it on hold for the remainder of our time at UA, Kurai replied. What happens after our education is completely up to me. Fair enough, Iida nodded, ignoring President Mike as he demanded to see some action. And if I lose, I am to cede my ideals concerning inter-student relationships to you, correct? Yep, Kurai answered, energy beginning to swirl in his right hand, growing larger by the second. If you're so determined to see us apart, you better bring your A-game, pal. If you insist, Iida shouted, sprinting forward at high speed, limping up high as soon as Kurai unleashed a barrage of energy from his left hand. The orb in his right done growing, now swirling like a small globe and getting faster and faster with each moment that passed. As Iida descended, he unleashed a devastating kick that would have sent Kurai flying out of bounds if it had hit. Instead, his opponent jumped out of the way with a speed that rivaled his own third gear, the orb in his right hand still gaining speed into rotation. Iida hadn't seen this move before, but he knew it couldn't be good news if Kurai was focusing on it so much. It wasn't a Kamehameha, but something about it still seemed familiar. He's getting uncertain. Good. Kurai thought as he once again resumed his left-handed assault with Energon, keeping his right hand as still as possible. Almost there. Iida began to run in an arc, trying to angle it on Kurai's right side, but the boy simply turned to match his opponent's trajectory, keeping the speedy hero in training at bay. However, the longer he kept Iida running in a circle, the more time he had to shift into higher gears, making him faster and faster as the seconds trickled by. But by the same token, the more that Kurai used his quirk without restraints, the more powerful and aggressive he became. Then Iida accelerated to a speed that Kurai had never seen before, the ports on his legs spitting out blue fire and propelling him so fast that he was little more than a blur. Recipro! Burst! Iida roared, charging directly at Kurai, dodging the energon bursts with such finesse that Kurai knew this couldn't be a recent development. He practiced this technique just for the festival. Kurai realized as his friend came within reach, a wild grin splitting his face. Too bad he's not the only one. Certain that his new technique was at its maximum power, he thrust his hand forward to collide with Iida's leg, knowing that his friend would be aiming for his left shoulder. He always aimed to strike with his right leg, his primary attacking limb, and with the way that Kurai was standing, his left side was more vulnerable to attack. There are some things that you need to work on too, old friend. Letting his power flow freely throughout his entire body, Kurai turned into Iida's strike, thrusting his palm forward, the hand holding the swirling orb as he bellowed, Rasengan! The orb repelled Iida immediately on contact, swirling energy streaming outward as it flung him away at rocket speed. The orb stayed attached to Kurai's hand, spitting out sparks and streams of energy until it finally fizzled out, Iida having been sent completely out of bounds. Jeez, your students are insane! President Mike called out. That move would have floored anyone but the top 10! Perhaps, but it takes too long for him to charge it up for it to be practical against anyone but a student. Azawa countered, causing Kurai to glare up at him, annoyed. Unaffected, his teacher added, Perhaps with time he can mold it into something formidable, but for now it's just a nice light show. Instead of shouting at his teacher like he wanted to, Kurai forced himself to restrain his temper and went to go check on his friend, grumbling to himself as he did. He did note that it was easier to do so than he'd expected, and resolved to thank Midoriya once he had the chance. He was right about how to channel it. About a week before the sports festival, Midoriya had approached Kurai with a new method for triggering his quirk, one that might take the strain off his frontal cortex. I've been doing research in my downtime, and I came across something interesting, the freckled boy told him during one of their breaks from sparring. The frontal cortex is where a lot of reactionary stuff happens, like where our emotions transmit commands to the rest of our bodies, you know? Yeah, I'm very much aware of that, Kurai had commented dryly. Right, sorry, Izuku had apologized. But I also read that a lot of scientists think it's where short-term memories convert into long-term. I was thinking that it might hold the key to triggering your quirk safely, or at least with less risk than it usually carries. Huh? Kurai asked, intrigued. This was the first time someone had brought up memory conversion in regards to his quirk. He was definitely interested now. Well, I was thinking, maybe your frontal cortex is doing too much of the work, and that's why you keep getting aneurysms, his friend explained. What if even though the trigger is in the front of your brain, you could keep it going by using other parts of it, using older memories to sustain those emotions, to take the stress off at least a little bit? Huh. Kurai had mused, rubbing his jaw thoughtfully. That'll take a while to master, if it even works, since I've been using it this one way for so long, but it has merit. Thanks, Midori. I'll definitely give it a shot. Now, as he helped Iida to his feet, he did have a headache, but it was nowhere near the excruciating levels of pain that had plagued him before now whenever he used his quirk so aggressively. It was hard, maintaining a flow of memories that sustained the emotions he needed to fuel his quirk, but it had paid off. Seems I was not the only one keeping a secret move in mind for this. Iida grunted as he got up, grimacing as he put weight on his left leg, the one that was mostly uninjured. His right leg, on the other hand, was at least fractured, maybe even broken. Well played, Kurai. So we're cool on the whole me and Mina thing, he asked hopefully as he helped his friend to limp toward the robots that were bringing out a stretcher. I'm still not happy about it, but per our agreement, I will speak nothing further on the matter, Iida replied deadly. Just bear in mind that I said what I did with good reason. Believe me, I tried to keep what you said close to heart, but Kurai shrugged as he laid his friend on the stretcher. I guess the heart and reason don't go hand in hand. Iida grumbled as he was wheeled away. Congratulations on your victory. I suppose if I had to lose to anyone, it was best it was you. Hikari will advance to the semifinals, Midnight announced amid his still cheering crowd. Let's find out who his opponent will be. You were amazing, Mina exclaimed as he walked into the hallway just outside their seating area. I could barely keep up with how fast you guys were fighting, but you sure know how to handle yourself, huh? That's because I had something worth fighting for, Kurai replied quietly, his eyes distant. While Mina looked a question at him, he silently mused on how foolish it had been of him to stake his relationship with this girl that had been nothing but kind to him in a test of arms. What if I had lost? He thought grimly as his arm moved almost of its own will, wrapping around Mina and pulling her close to him. He'd have been bound by his word to do as Iida requested, even as his friend was now obliged to stay silent on the matter of their relationship. She'd never forgive me for that. Hey, Kurai, Mina said nervously. You're kind of squeezing me. I need to breathe. Sorry. He apologized as he loosened his grip, but still kept her close. I'm just starting to understand something. He had never before realized that despite her energetic approach to everything, she was actually a soft, gentle person, someone he really enjoyed being around. Now that he had been at risk of losing this close proximity to her, it made him appreciate her presence in a way that was unfamiliar to him. However, he couldn't deny that it was pleasant, being able to be this close to her. What's up? She asked him as she drew back far enough to look him in the eye. Did you and Iida settle things out there? Yeah, he nodded with a small smile. We did. And now I have a better understanding about why you like being close to me, physically. Her eyes lit up in surprise, so he added, it's still new to me, this wanting to be close to somebody beyond a platonic sense, but I'm glad that I'll be experiencing these feelings with you. I just wanted you to know that. Aw, you're too sweet. She giggled as she leaned into the hug. I'm glad to be with you too. Life is way more fun and exciting this way. Get a room, you two, Tokoyami muttered as he walked past them, causing the couple to yelp in surprise. Apparently his match was set to start sooner than previous ones due to the minimal damage done to their battle stage. Sorry, Kurai said helplessly as their classmate rounded the corner, ignoring them. I didn't realize we'd been here that long, Mina remarked as they disengaged and began walking back to the seating area. Let's get moving before Bakugo gets out here and yells at us. He might actually try to set me on fire after what I told him earlier. Kurai grinned. Or at least he'd try. Mina's laughter gripped him like a warm jacket as he led her back to their seats. Okay, so let's be real. How many of you guys actually expected Iida to beat Kurai? I kind of toyed with the idea a bit because, Iida hadn't shown off his reciprocal burst yet. If you remember in the original, he debuted this during the cavalry battle to use against Deku and friends. But this time he was able to save it until this match. But of course, Kurai had his own tricks up his sleeve. At one point, I thought about having Kurai lose to him, but it just didn't the story flow didn't feel right to me after that. I mean, Kurai's given his background and his powers, Kurai's just too good to be beaten by Iida, unfortunate as it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Iida. I think he's going to be a great hero, but he's not good at fighting people who can do distance. All of his attacks have to be close-up melee. And that puts him at a disadvantage against someone who can throw friggin' lasers with a thought of his mind, just a thought. I don't know. What did you think about the chapter? What stood out to you?
I think it was just very emotionally charged because you have Iida who's feeling pretty dejected that not only did his friend go behind his back, but he's making a choice that he thinks is really stupid by getting emotionally involved right now when Iida thinks that he should be taking his hero course more seriously. Yeah. And I think if it was anyone, he would have been irritated, but it's his best friend. And so he's really bugged. And so we had the beginning where, they had their argument and they decided to set...
Mina's actually trying to play peacemaker. Kind of interestingly enough, she's like, guys, there's a fight ring for this. Mm-hmm. Can we do this afterwards? We're kind of beat up. We need to go to the nurse.
Yeah, so they're able to kind of cool down and say, okay, we'll deal with this later, even though they're both irritated with
each other. Yeah.
And then we have after that
it was Deku versus Kirishima, which is another one that was fun to write because in the original it's at this point it's Deku versus Todoroki and it's Kirishima versus Bakugo. Neither of which
That's what I do to him.
No, neither of which matches are going to occur. Well, sorry, no. Deku's match against Todoroki will happen next chapter, but Kirishima won't fight Bakugo, obviously, because he's out at this point. It was another one where it was this one was a little more straightforward because, they're both melee types. Deku could have just, flicked his fingers and sent Kirishima flying, but he's trying to avoid making mistakes like that.
Yeah, he's going to injure his friends. Yeah,
and this isn't Todoroki who it's he's got to fire off at 100% or he's gonna get flash frozen. So he tried to fight it a little more carefully, using full cowling at 5%, and then I kind of I did some changes around after having finished the chapter, but. Originally, I was going to kind of have him do a similar thing that he did to Shoji, where he kind of uses his own weight and momentum against him and throws him out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Kirishima's a little too stubborn
and he's too solid. He's got this low center of gravity, and again, his whole
body turns into a rock.
Heavy, And so that would be really hard.
Well, also it's Deku is Like Deku's shown a high resilience to pain, but like he's like bare knuckle punching this guy, and he's punching a rock wall basically. So he's like he's cutting himself. He's gonna get bruises on his knuckles real bad. He switches up to kicks a little bit because Kurai's shown him how to do that a little bit. But this is not a fight that he could like. It wasn't a fight that endurance was going to go well for him, which I think was kind of his mistake. Because he was like, "Oh, I gotta outlast him." Because I need to see
unstoppable force meets
immovable object kind of thing. Yeah, he was like, maybe I can outlast him because he thought maybe Kirishima's quirk is based on his stamina or something else that I'm not accounting for, and that almost ended up being his undoing because Kirishima can just let him hit him and he's fine, and then he can punch right back. And you ever had a rock hit you? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. But so what ended up happening was Deku's fear got the better of him. And he ended up letting loose with a 30% Detroit Smash, I think it was. And, that sends Kirishima flying, of course. And, of course, Deku has this moment of, oh, crap, I broke my arm. Oh, crap, is Kirishima okay?
Yeah.
So, like, that's not the way he should have won or the way that he wanted to win. But it happened, and now he's going to move on. All he can do is be like, okay, I got to not do that again. So, like, we have, at this point in the anime, Deku, like, ends up with a crooked hand because of how badly he messed up his arm fighting Todoroki. So he still broke his arm, but it's like he doesn't have any permanent scars or anything like that at this point. It's like, he went to Recover Girl, he's a little tired, but his bones aren't like shattered this time. So he may not, I think he'll be a little more careful in the future, but the lesson may not have been driven home as hard as it would have been if he had like crippled his arm.
Borderline, permanent damage.
Right? Oh yeah, there is permanent. Like he can't straighten his fingers out all the way anymore because his bones are crooked. So I just I wanted to like give him some lasting damage effects, but even if I 30% was all it would take to send Kirishima flying. B, if he had 100%ed it, his arm would be healed up by Recovery Girl. It'd probably still be bruised afterward, but he could keep going, no problem. And so either way, the lesson wouldn't really have sunk in as much. So we'll have to see how
this changes over the course of events with Deku and how he handles situations.
Yeah, so I've thrown the pebble in the pond. The ripples are starting to get bigger out here now, as exhibited in the way the cavalry battle turned out, and now the way these tournament lineups are happening. Iida doesn't make it to the semifinals. He gets knocked out in the quarterfinals, for example. And Tokoyami's out a round early too. Kirishima gets knocked out in the same round, but now Deku is going to the semifinals, whereas before in the original he only got to the quarterfinals and was defeated by Todoroki. Either way, that wasn't a great match.
Right, so we had that fight. And then we have
we covered Kurai and Iida's fight.
Well, not really.
Not really?
I mean, we talked about the emotional aspect.
Okay, alright. Well, before that, there's the bit where Bakugo...
That's right.
He kind of has his hissy fit.
Because he kind of does the same thing in the show, where he's like, really, guys? Really? I'm supposed to be the one that you're worried about, and you're not even paying attention
does that.
to me.
He does that during... So he does that in the original. He does that to Todoroki, like, during the race. Like, when he catches up to him in my field. He's like, your declaration of war was to the wrong person.
Yeah, but this time, well, it's like...
He didn't get that chance this time because Kurai accidentally knocked him out of the minefield.
As a teacher, I just see that little boy who is just wanting everyone's attention so badly by being bad, and no one's paying attention to him, so he starts throwing
Pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me.
Kicking and screaming on the floor and everything, and it's just like, honey.
And Kurai's just like, well, there's nothing to pay attention to around here, I'm gonna go.
Oh, honey. Yeah. Oh, Bakugo.
Yeah. So this time is
Bakugo.
Like this time is not only is Todoroki ignoring him and Deku's kind of getting caught up in that, but there's the one who there's Kurai who like everybody else is like, this guy's the next number one.
He's used to being the star, man. He was a little star at his elementary school.
But that's how it was for Kurai, and Kurai just has better control over his powers and better reasoning. He doesn't let his temper get to him for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
Like, it happens, but he's in control of
his quirk than anything
else. Bakugo just has a bad attitude.
Yeah.
So he throws his little hissy fit, and Kurai's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, man, I don't care.
Yeah, I've got other things that I'm worried about now, dude.
Next chapter is going to be interesting because it's going to be Deku versus Todoroki, and it's going to be Kurai versus Bakugo.
And that boy is angry.
Yeah, he's angry. He's an angry boy. He's very angry boy.
Like my angry little fish who gets angry.
Yeah. So for Kurai versus Iida, like I said earlier, I covered this was his debut of the Reciprocal Burst, but it was kind of interesting writing a fight between two people that have known each other most of their lives. Like, not only do they know each other's personalities, they also know they have a pretty good idea of what the other person can do in terms of physical abilities. But of course, both of them were holding something back, as an ace card for the festival against whoever it needed to be. And, as it turns out, when you're fighting somebody who's pretty familiar with you, that's probably the best time to use your surprise card. Which they both did, and Kurai's just ended up winning, because recoil.
Also, Iida's a little bit off emotionally, too, already. Which, I think regularly he would have performed a little bit better, but I think he was
a little too hasty in his approach.
And then, that also makes me worry for Iida, because that adds insult to injury, because we know what happened.
We know what's about to happen next.
After this fight.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen the anime, but you're going to find out in the next chapter anyway.
Yeah, it's not great.
So it's just, so it makes you kind of feel for Iida a little bit, because he's getting his little heart crushed today.
Yeah. Poor Iida.
But he'll be alright. We love Iida.
Yes, he'll be okay.
So,
it may take a little longer this time around, but he'll be okay.
And then after the fight, Kurai has kind of an aha moment.
No, I wouldn't even say it's not even an aha moment. It's just kind of like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, he realizes, wow, if I had lost, what would I have lost? I think it's finally hitting him that he really cares
about Mina.
And he wants to be with her. I think before it was like, okay, I'm just gonna see where this goes.
This girl is
Yep.
And I don't understand what's happening, but okay.
And at this point, he's like, wow, no,
I
really care about her, and I
don't want that to go away.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of started off of course it started off with her crushing on him pretty mad. And he's just not really sure what to do with it, but he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. So he thinks she's cool. He wants to get to know her better. But now it's kind of like he's, for lack of a better term, he's starting to crush on her back a little harder. I think that started a while back. Did it?
I think it's more of when you.
I write these characters, and I don't know what's happening.
I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but I just feel like. You reach a point in a relationship, because I feel like most relationships you start where you're kind of at an arm's distance. You don't want yourself to get hurt. It's that choice between to let yourself love is to get hurt, right?
Yeah.
And so he's been in that cautious phase, and I think he's reaching a point where he's
and that's just how he handles things in general.
Yeah,
he's
and that's his personality. He's not all in. Mina's all in. She wears her heart on her sleeve. And
Iida could also be described as being
definitely
all in.
If he were to date someone, he'd totally be like that, I'm sure.
I think he's gonna be one of those heroes where he's gonna be married to his job.
We'll see.
I love the man. It's not like I want him to be unhappy, but I'm just I think
he might be a little too focused on his job.
A little bit of tunnel vision happening there.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I don't think he'd be unhappy with that. I think he'd
love it. Yeah, that's his passion.
Yeah.
But no, what I'm saying is I think that Kurai here, it's like he's all of a sudden it's hit him that it's like, no, I think I am, this is what I want. Yeah. And I want to pursue this, and I'm very thankful that I didn't have to let go of it. Yeah,
and for him it's interesting because he hasn't thought about wanting anything outside of doing well in his academics and making his dad proud of him. Because we saw in the last chapter, it's he had this moment with his dad, and his dad was like, you did well, but you could have done better. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of really, but you could tell on a certain level it was oh man, I didn't do well enough.
But you know what? He's growing, and he's starting to have his own ambitions, and he's not just living through his family.
Yeah.
And so I think that's some big character development for him.
Yeah. I thought it was a little scene, but I think those end up being some of the most important ones, as this one will be.
Now, if this was shown, and we'd have a flashback to this every 10 episodes. And be remember this? We just want to punch you in the feels because it's gonna, we want you to think.
Oh, I don't need flashbacks to punch people in the feels.
Yeah.
I don't need flashbacks to do that. You guys know what I'm talking about.
I've been watching too much Naruto.
Oh man, it's such a good show.
It's so good with the flashbacks.
The first seasons are so hard to get through, but it's such a good show now.
I'm so into it, bro. I've always loved freaking Natsu, and now I think
like Naruto's
I know he was the original, and Natsu was kind of like almost a parody of Naruto, but I think I understand.
Well, sure, if you want to call Naruto a parody of Goku.
Yeah, but it's just like, I understand the Naruto love now. I never got it because his character just seemed so dumb to me before, and I was just like... That's probably
because we only saw clips of him like when he's like a child.
Yeah, being a brat. But, oh my gosh, because I always thought he was just...
I gotta hand it to the creator of Naruto. He knows how to do some character development.
Oh, holy cow. Yeah.
Except for when it comes to Sakura.
Freaking Sakura.
That is another tangent that we can go on.
Yeah, if you guys want to talk to us about Naruto, we can, but we better keep it brief, just because that's not what you came to watch.
No, it's not. You came to watch us talk about Your Hero Academia, and I'm glad that you guys did. As usual, I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. Please be on the lookout for the physical release on fanfiction.net coming up here on Wednesday, and then we'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks for the video, and I wish that the movie... Heroes Rising came out a week early, so that way I could rant about it to you guys after seeing it again.
Next week.
But it's going to have to be a month from now because it comes out in 3 weeks.
Oh, sorry. He's been talking about it so much, I thought it was next week.
I wish it was.
I mean, I want to see it too, but...
That was the last movie I saw in theaters before this whole stupid pandemic started. I had the whole theater to myself. I'm like, I can check something off my bucket list. I wanted to see a movie all by myself with nobody else in the theater, and it happened, and it was the best movie. It was great.
For his birthday, I told him he could go by himself without babies, and it was great.
It was awesome.
Anyway...
All right, I'm done now. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Stay plus ultra, and we'll see you next time.